Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's September 20th, 2019. I'm out in the greenhouse, and today I thought I'd take a few minutes to answer some questions and respond to a comment about the greenhouse phase 3, the re-erection, reassembly of the 1970s Lord and Burnham aluminum and glass greenhouse. Probably a little over a month ago, after posting one of the videos of the reconstruction of this greenhouse, Tim from Tim's Homestead commented, geez, I have an opportunity to potentially pick up a greenhouse on Craigslist or eBay or in a local paper. I can't remember which it was. And I haven't followed up with him, and I know that from watching his videos, and shout out to you, Tim, you're doing a great job with your YouTube channel. I really appreciate watching the progress, the successes and challenges that you experience as well, and you sharing those with us. So Tim had this opportunity to go and deconstruct a greenhouse similar to what we did a few years ago. And that's one of the reasons why I'm creating this phase 3 of a multiple phase series of the greenhouse reconstruction. So phase 1 was 7 years ago. Once we acquired the greenhouse, we deconstructed it, took it apart, and put it in storage. Phase 2 was when we decided how we're going to build it. We're going to attach it to a chicken coop and work area, and so we decided to excavate out the area, put in this large thermal mass unit, much larger than the thermal mass unit that we have in the house. And and we're using more of the later technology with this thermal mass unit so we can get the benefit of it. So that was phase 2. That was 6 years ago. Then I had a few years of doing other work on the site, so it took me a while to get back to it. And so this is phase 3, where we're reconstructing, reassembling the greenhouse and attaching it to the work area. This is a pretty significant accomplishment that we're working through at this time. And then there'll be phase 4 and phase 5 after this, when we're going through how we're going to set up the automation in the greenhouse, how we're going to modify the wall structures, because I'm putting this up with limited materials because things are expensive. But I do have plans to modify things in the future, which I'm not going to discuss this season, at least at this point. So there will be several phases, and then as we have successes and failures, we'll be modifying the systems that we use in the greenhouse as well. So there's another reason that I'm creating this video series as well, not only for people like Tim or other people who have the opportunity to pick up a greenhouse from some farmer that's potentially going under. Like, I'll put a link in the upper right hand corner to the Gothic High Tunnel that I took down a couple of years ago, and it's in storage. That's another building I hope to get up. I wanted to get up at the end of this season. I'm just not going to be able to do that. But next season I hope to get that up so we can have an unheated high tunnel that we can extend and be able to grow the crops during the fall months and harvest all winter long. So each building will serve multiple functions and present learning opportunities for us as well. So I hope to make some further explanatory future goal videos as well, such as, well, what's the difference between poly low tunnels, poly high tunnels, and a greenhouse? What's the difference between a greenhouse, which is heated, and a passive solar greenhouse? Or what is a hybrid greenhouse? So those are videos that I hope to make in the future, so that people will have those as a reference to go to when I'm talking about various things that we're doing here on site. A question that I got from Amber, and this was a while ago, sorry it's taken me so long to get to this response. Amber asked, geez, is this a kit? If so, where did I get it? And if I don't mind, how much did it cost? Well, we purchased this as a sealed bid auction from an educational facility, a BOCES, where they teach auto mechanics, welding, all sorts of computer science, technology aspects, and they had a greenhouse. Now they've changed their educational facility, and they did massive changes to the whole facility as far as building structures and renovations and all. So they decided this greenhouse would no longer fit their needs, so they put it up for closed sealed bids, meaning that you get one opportunity to make one offer for a building, and then with the catch that you have to take it down, you have to be insured, you have to take it down within a defined period of time, you have to do it within their hours of operation, a whole set of conditions that you have to be willing to meet. And if you don't meet those conditions, even though you've paid your money, someone else is going to take the building and all. So those are things to think about. I originally wasn't looking for a building like this. Thea and I were actually put ads on in Craigslist looking for old windows and doors and all, because I was going to construct our own do-it-yourself greenhouse. And one of the people who watch our videos went ahead and emailed me and said, hey, you know what, BOCES they're getting rid of their greenhouse, and I think it's coming up for auction pretty quick. So I said, geez, well, I went to Google Earth and I looked down at it. I said, geez, that looks like a pretty decent greenhouse. And then we went out and we took some pictures of it from the outside and said, boy, this is pretty interesting. So then we contacted them, got a tour of the area, and put in a sealed bid for it. And I put in a $2,000 bid for it, figuring there's no way I was going to get it. Well, we won the bid. And one of the main reasons is that, most people like us probably weren't aware that this greenhouse was going up, or they looked at it and they said, wow, that's just too darn much work after paying the $2,000. So most people that were putting in bids probably were looking for the facility, BOCES, to actually pay them to demolish it, sell off the scrap metal, those sorts of things. So there's probably buildings like this that go up regularly for auction that none of us are actually aware of. An example would be when I first started doing the renovations in the workshop, all of the construction that I did with this building, they're all super insulated, but the insulation was all used insulation. And so contractors put a bid on doing renovations on educational facilities, and they had the opportunity to take all of the insulation that was still excellent insulation, take it out, might get damaged from removing things, have holes in it and all, but then they would haul it off site. Instead of taking it to a landfill, they take it home and start selling it. And now that more and more people are aware of it, selling it on Craigslist, the price is getting higher and higher as time goes on. So there's opportunities to repurpose, recycle building materials so that it doesn't end up in a landfill. And certainly it would have been a horrible waste for this building to end up in a landfill or in a scrapyard to be remelted and all. So that's the story, Amber, with what it costs us for it. The $2,000 that it cost for getting this, that was a drop in the bucket compared to what it costs to do all the foundation work, all the concrete, all of the thermal mass, the buildings and all. And I did it all myself. Now I did have people helping me with the big pour and all that, but other than that, 2 big pours, one for the floors all the way around and one for the insulated concrete forms. So that was pretty expensive. It's actually pretty darn expensive just getting the hardware that I need. It's time intensive, cleaning all these materials. These things didn't look anything like they look now when I first started cleaning up the materials. And a lot of work involved in it as well. I had to buy some more aluminum so that I have sealable edges and support for when I put the Solex up above as well. So there'll be videos about that coming up as well. So that's what the structure actually cost us, but there's a lot more involved, especially time and energy. And whenever I'm looking at any project, I'm always looking at 3 or 4 different variables. What is the cost? What is the quality? How much time will it take? And how much energy is involved? So, you know, most people talk about the triad of quality, cost, and time, and you can have any 2, but when we look at it, there's actually 4, so it's how much effort you have to put into it yourself, sweat equity. So a recent question that I got from Mars rover was, geez, I didn't realize that there was a partition in the middle, almost in the middle of this building. What's the function of that? Why are you doing it? And so the why is always probably the most important question that I'm interested in. I used to be interested in what is this and how is it? So the questions are who, what, where, when, why, and how. And what and how used to be the way that I would think about things. And then the why, as I have matured over the years, you know, why do things the way that you're planning on doing it? Is there a better way? What are the benefits, and so on and so forth. So the first part of the answer is, you know, why the partition there? Well, the building had a partition in it initially, but I couldn't think of a better option than to have this building, which is 69 feet long and 32 feet wide. I think that's outside dimensions. I think having it in 2 different zones, and so we can have different functions in these areas. Now, we live in Oswego, New York. We're in a very cold temperate climate zone. We have lots of snowfall during the winter months, and we have tremendous cloud cover, much worse than the snow or other issues, the cloud cover. So we don't get nearly as much solar gain. And so during those winter months when we have the sub-zero temperatures, well, it's great for having a greenhouse if you're getting the sun during the daytime, because that sun you can pump underground and put into a climate battery or put it into a large thermal mass unit like this and store that heat energy so that during the night hours that heat can come back up into the living environment. So when I designed the system, I did lots of overkill as far as the thermal mass unit, because this greenhouse isn't oriented ideally. Now, what would be a better orientation? If I were to split the greenhouse lengthwise right down the peak and make it twice as long and just have it all facing south and just a little bit of east and a little bit of west. Well, as you could see in this greenhouse, that way south, that way's north, we got the long axis going north and south, so we have lots of east exposure and lots of west exposure. When they designed these systems originally over 100 years ago, labor was inexpensive, coal was very inexpensive, wood was inexpensive, it was bountiful in Europe and all, and they extracted all of that. When they built this building in 1970 in Oswego, New York, at the educational facility, a nuclear power plant was promising that electric energy, so everybody their new homes are building electric baseboard heating, would be dirt cheap because a nuclear power plant coming right in our neighborhood. So they could put in a large boiler system that could run off of electricity, and that would be wonderful. Then they switched over to a gas and oil burner ultimately to heat the system. Now the components of that, I've sold off the boiler, but I have the piping, and I'll show how I'll be using that in the future for part of the solar thermal energy that we'll be putting into heating the water totes down below. So those are a future series going over that process. But having these 2 areas, initially my goal was to have the most northern area next to the north wall there, a tropical zone. So we could have all of our citrus, our figs, our bananas, all of those plants in there without worrying about their root structures being totally destroyed during the winter months. I don't know that will actually work. And then out here having raised beds, and you maybe have seen all of these pipes coming through, and so these aren't drain pipes that drain to the outside. These are all loops that all connect to another set of pipes next to the building that would have a float valve on it, so we could have water wicking systems at the base of all of these beds, so I could get all our seed starts started out here early in the springtime as well. These may all be destroyed because it's taken me so long. The caps blew off in some of our severe winter storms. They were all secured and taped down, and but during those winter months and some of the storms, the caps blew off. I didn't realize it. Snow and water got down into the pipes, so they could have frozen and burst down below, in which case I'll cut all these pipes off. So there's a lot of work put into putting those in, and made it a real hassle to pour the concrete around all of those pipes. But that was our original goal. Thea has talked about, since my hot tub I haven't used for years, sticking the hot tub over in there so that, you know, it can come out during the winter months and actually enjoy the environment out here, because living up here can be kind of tough. You just have the sounds of the winds blowing like crazy, the whiteouts and all, and having a place that's got that there's light coming into the area, and it's a nice temperature, and then you can get in the hot tub. That'd be nice, surrounded by all the plants. Those were all goals. I don't know what will come through fruition. We'll have to see. This winter will just be phase one. I'll start installing some of the sensors out here during this winter, but ideally all of these fall days where we have the sun, we'd be pumping that air, trapping it inside of this greenhouse and under the roof. We'd suck all that heat down, pump it into the thermal mass, be pumping it into the water when we have all these solar gain days, and we'd be bringing up the charge, the thermal charge, in all of our batteries, the thermal mass. We won't be able to do that this season. It takes me too long to put this together. Next fall is when we'll see how well we can charge all these systems, and next fall, not this coming one, we'll be able to see how well the function is when we have the cloud covered, snow covered, long winter days, and how far the temperature drops and how quickly we deplete the battery, all of those things. Because the Solex is going on the top, that's an R2, glass is an R1. We are going to use some double pane glass on the sides here. I still have to work out how I'm going to do screens for these systems. I still have to work out how I'm going to deal with the electronics for opening and closing the vents. I'll make a future video on some of the automation systems that are available, the costs that are there. I've been doing a lot of research with that, and it's cost prohibitive. And the knowledge base of some of the people selling the equipment isn't really where I'd like it to be, based on smart home technology, Internet of Things, Z-Wave, Zigbee, some of these Arduino, some of these technologies that are being utilized all over the world. So that'll be a future video as well. So the partitions there'll be a simple single pane glass partition between the two so we could see back and forth. We'll see how things work this winter. More important is how things will work next winter, and see how well we can keep plants alive out here without pumping energy into the building. And I'll be talking about some of the hybrid systems in future videos that I'll be using, that I have plans for, and we'll see how that works. So lots of future videos to come in the future on this greenhouse. So if you found this video of value, please give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and if you have any thoughts or comments, please leave them below. And by all means, folks, have a great day. Bye-bye now.